Hey, what's up guys, my name is Cherno and welcome back to another live stream / Game Engine series episode. Today we're going to be back at it again with everybody's favorite series, including mine, the Game Engine series. So let's probably start. Seems a bit loud. Let's probably start by taking a look at where we're at, because I loosely remember what I wanted to do today, but we should probably take a look at the roadmap. So this is the roadmap. We're working on scripting, obviously. We've done the mono integration. We've separated the core and project C# DLLs, and we've also done quite a lot of this C# fields task, but really it includes like debugging and reloading C# assembly. So I think the reloading C# assembly is probably what we want to try and do today, which is by far the most annoying thing ever. Because of a few reasons, but I'm going to try and like wing it and see what's up. I noticed that Peter is in the stream, so he might help at some point, but I think that we will probably just take a look at... Okay, well, I guess we should probably like run this and see like what's going on. But otherwise, yeah, so at the moment we've got like this scene here. We've got like player. I've made the font larger just so that it's more visible on stream, so that's why this looks kind of big. But we've got like, you know, this scene, and we have this player, and the player has a script component, and the script component has a class, and that class refers to, is this the right one? Yeah. Refers to a C# class called player in the sandbox namespace that we've actually created over here. So we have sandbox.player, and that has an onCreate and an onUpdate function, and if we hit play and we run this, yeah, the script runs, and you can see we have this kind of like 2D physics body, and as the script says, WASD will add forces to it, and so we get this kind of nice little interactive scene. And then when we hit stop, obviously everything resets. And also one thing that we're doing that's a little bit kind of, you know, extra, I guess, is we have two public variables. Time isn't really being set, it's just being incremented as an example. But speed, you can see, is not set to anything, and yet we actually use speed to kind of move the player, right? So we do velocity times equals speed times the time step, and this speed is actually set through the editor, right? So we can change the speed to like, you know, 8, and then if you can see we shoot up now, or we can make it like really low, like 0.5, or I don't know, I don't actually remember what it was. Yeah, and I can barely move at all now, right? So that's pretty cool, because it means that we can kind of have these data fields inside our actual editor, and yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, it's just a way for us to, like associate certain data sets with entities, which is pretty cool. And I don't know like how much we want to extend this system, because there's a lot of kind of use cases for just having data available. Because if you think about it, like, you know, a game engine and what we have over here at the moment, we don't really have just kind of an abstract way to define data, right? Like we can either define data as actual variables in the code, or we can kind of define them as scripts, and that lets us set it through the editor. But it might be useful to have just some kind of, you know, kind of key value abstract data storage situation that just lets us, you know, arbitrarily be like, hey, I want, you know, the, you know, mode to be set to debug or something, and that means that my scripts will behave differently or something else will happen. So we might kind of extend the system so that it almost goes beyond scripts, because I feel like that could be interesting. And also there could obviously be different kinds of scripts. So at the moment, the only way that we use scripts is we associate them with specifically an entity, right? So we have like this player, which has a script component, and that's associated with this actual C# class. However, there could be scripts that are associated with just like the metagame or some kind of global state that doesn't rely on any entity being created or destroyed. It might just be like a scene script or something like that, like behavior attached to the actual scene itself. It could be a behavior that goes beyond scenes, a behavior that's kind of attached to a global kind of context. Although those kinds of behaviors, you know, whilst we can obviously create classes inside C# and have them be absolutely anything, right? Like as in I could create a new class here and I could fill it with static members or static variables, right? And that data would persist for the lifetime of our entire game, because the modern runtime is not really going to get like restarted or anything like that. So therefore, you know, that's kind of a way to get persistent storage across scenes. However, what's not so great about that is if we want to do anything with that data, for example, then obviously, like for example, we want to read it from a file or something, you know, aside from like making some kind of arbitrary static blocks or whatever else we can do, like we can't really do that because we need to still kind of have almost like an entry point, which is usually a non-create function, but a non-create function is on an entity. So there's kind of this consideration where if we want to just arbitrarily run code at the beginning of our game, or when someone tries to close the game maybe, or whatever else from C#, we can't actually do that at the moment. So the scope can kind of change, and that might be something we want. And we might also want to, we might want to kind of, I guess, use some sort of you know, data set that can be used in more than just that kind of per entity script context. Okay, cool. But anyway, let's talk about assembly reloading, I guess. There's a couple ways we can do it. Let's do it the easy way first. We're gonna do it manually, which means that we'll have to like manually press like reload assembly. We can do it automatically by, you know, creating like a file watcher or something like that, and you know, or some kind of, yeah, I mean, ultimately we could create like a file watcher, run it on like a different thread, have it just receive events regarding a directory or a file and whether or not things change. That's probably something we'll end up doing just because it's really fast, and that's what we do in like the full version of Hazel. But for now, like, let's just go to script engine, and we're going to take a look at what is actually necessary for reloading an assembly. And I loosely know what's up, but I also haven't looked at it in like several years. So we're going to see how this works. So if we look at, I mean, if you think about it this way, what we're kind of trying to do. Okay, so first of all, what is the scenario in which we want to reload a C# assembly? And how does it work? Well, technically speaking, we're loading this kind of sandbox.dll, right? And when we do that, what it actually does, if we go to load app assembly, which, I don't know, I press F12, it took me to shut down, like, what's going on? Like, F12, yeah, the shutdown function. Thank you, Visual Studio. This is why Visual Assist is nice, because it actually takes me to the right place. So, what we do is we load the mono assembly, which again, if we look at that, then you'll see that like we read a file, we do this open image from data full, and then we load the assembly, and then we close the image, and we return the actual assembly and delete the file data. Sure, all right. So basically what this does is just returns a new kind of mono assembly. So we'll have to obviously do that because the assembly would have presumably changed on disk if we want to reload it. Like, so a scenario of reloading might be like, you know, changing something in the C# code, obviously. So we'll change like some code, we'll hit Control-Shift-B to compile, it builds a new DLL for us, and then we want to reload that DLL into Hazel. So if we go to load mono assembly, or load assembly, that calls load mono assembly. We have our core assembly, we have the mono assembly image as well, which is what this, or the mono image, I guess they call it. And then what happens? So load assembly is called by this. We just do load assembly classes, and yeah, we just kind of just go, I guess. So init mono actually sets up like the root domain and everything like that. So technically speaking, so load up assembly, load assembly classes. Okay, that's kind of the other thing, the other important thing as well, because what this is going to go through and do is basically is we're going to go through like basically this image and extract some metadata from it. And I'm just thinking, so where does that end up going? So as data obviously is kind of our persistent storage. So entity classes, so we'll actually insert it into the script class. We'll make a new ref out of it and set up all of this stuff. I mean, at this point, like, I'm not sure what would stop us really from just calling this stuff again. I mean, we'll have to, so register functions, that's kind of irrelevant as far as assemblies go. Register components is also irrelevant. So it's really just, oh, and then the entity class. So what's this used for, this entity class? What is that used for? Was that just a test? Oh, no. Okay, I see. No, so we have to retrieve the entity class in order to call the constructor. I think when we do a script instance, or do something like that when we pass it in here, because we need to call the entity constructor with a custom parameter. Okay, so we'll have to probably retrieve that. But really, it's just like load app assembly that should happen again, right? Now, again, today we're just gonna cover the simple case, which is gonna be doing this like during just, I guess, edit time. So in other words, we wouldn't expect this to work in play mode and automatically, like, you know, call the new on update function, even though like full version of Hazel does do that. We will just kind of cover, you know, during this edit mode, let's make some changes, let's go back here and let's reload it, right? So I guess that's the normal case anyway, although it is quite cool, I guess, to be able to you know, modify this on update function while it's actually running. All right, cool. So let's take a look at this. What I'm going to try as a first step is, let me just quickly check in at mono just to make sure we haven't done any. Yeah, sure. Let's just call load app assembly again, but we should unload the assembly as well. And we'll see what that does. So there's mono assembly load from full. If we just go over here, we should see some sort of like unload function. I mean, this is all the assembly stuff. It's possible that we might have to like shut down the app domain, but we don't really have an app domain. Or it's like, oh no, okay, right, I see, yeah. So we just baked it into here, right? So we baked this into load assembly, which is a bit weird. So load assembly loads the core assembly, but you can see it also creates an app domain, and that domain is kind of like the container for everything. And so I think what we have to do is probably unload this domain, right? So just need to quickly make sure I have enough disk space to keep recording because I'm running low. All right, domain free. So domain free. Application domains. Domain free. This releases the resource associated with a specific domain. Well, I mean, I'm thinking that maybe we can just call domain free, right? If we just do... So, and what does shutdown mono do? Because that tries to do... Oh, domain unload, right? But that fails, I think, because, yeah, we were having issues with that. But I'm pretty sure we still have to do that before we reload another assembly, because the assembly's lifetime, I think, is tied to that app domain. So let's try... how should we make this work? Let's make a function maybe called reload assembly or something. And this is just going to be like a little... This is just going to be a little function that we can just call to test out this kind of stuff. So if I do domain, I'll probably have to do unload as well. Domain, let's do unload. I mean, what is unload? What's unload versus free according to the docs? Unload actually has, this is like why I love Mono so much, like the zero documentation. Like just Mono domain unload. Like cool. So app domain, I guess. So what's this root domain thing? Oh, root domain is, I think that's like, yeah, that's like the JIT thing. That's the actual entire mono runtime, not just this thing. Yeah, Peter's felt some pain for sure. I guess we can try this. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just stabbing stuff in the dark. And there's a force. I guess true, maybe false. I don't know. So if we do that, and then we try and load assembly and load app assembly. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to store the file path. I'm going to store the file path inside this data block, which, where are we storing our data anyway? Yeah, so there's going to be basically like, well, yeah, I'll just call it core assembly file path and app assembly. Like, this stuff is probably going to mostly just apply to the editor, to be completely honest, because, well, like, to give an example, like the app assemblies in like Big Hazel runtime, they're not even loaded from files. So this is obviously meaningless. So like, yeah, I don't know what to do about that. But obviously for the editor and for our kind of current use case, we'll just stick with this. So basically what will happen is just when you call, you know, load assembly, it will just set like that path to be whatever you passed in basically. And I guess I can move this down. And then we'll do the same for the app assembly. I don't know what's up with this move this maybe comments, but whatever. So this is just kind of represent the last loaded path. And the reason for that is because we can just reload it then if we store it. Okay, so we have the core, we have the app, and I think that's mostly all that we do. I mean, no, if we look at init, I mean, so we do that, then we do load assembly classes. The register components and functions, I'm pretty sure this is just a mono thing. Like, this is not relative to these assemblies at all. Obviously, the assembly classes are, and also this last part is as well. So I think that that's something that we definitely don't need to do again. So let's just try to do this, and let's try to, where's that entity thing? This will have to do again, I'm pretty sure as well. Because what does this actually do? I mean, that was a script class function, right? Yeah, so script class will do monoclass from name, and obviously it uses like the assembly image. So we'll have to do that again. All right, so I have very low hopes for this. Mono's probably going to complain, but let's just try and do this. So the way we're going to expose this for now is we're going to do this inside the menu. So we have like the file menu, for example, right? I'm going to just kind of make another one of these guys. And we're just going to call this like script. And then we'll just make a little like menu item here. Called reload assembly. I mean, we can make it like Control R or something. We'll have to implement that later though. And then we can do script engine reload assembly. So yeah, I mean, again, is it gonna work? Probably not, because if it was that simple, then we'd all be game engine developers. So scripting script engine. All right, there you go. You happy now? Good. Let's hit F5 and see what happens. That's my catchphrase. Oh, what's up, chat? Oh, Vague Lobster's telling me that if I do monodomain set get root domain false before unload, you can shut down correctly, apparently. Okay, Vague Lobster, I will try. Oh, right, I'll have to switch it away from the custom app domain before you can free it properly. All right, that makes sense. Wow, that just didn't even let me. I forgot the end menu bar. We'll try with the current setup just because I want to see what error we get. Can you please work, man? What's going on? Wait, what did I just do? And why is this on one line? End menu is what I meant. Alright, so we get a very cryptic crash, I guess, on the domain unloader thread. So the main thread is actually just waiting, and this is actually coming from Mono itself, but it's waiting for a signal. It's called wait for single object, but that's just the Windows kind of signal system. It's waiting for like a signal because this guy is trying to do the unloading. I don't know why they have to do this on a different thread. I guess because garbage collection runs on a different thread or something like that. But that's failing. And like, to be honest, like, again, what I hate about this is that this is such a stupid crash. Like, why? Like, what even is this? Like, basically, the table just has bad memory, right? So I think actually what's happened here, funnily enough, is this isn't even like... I mean, what I don't know what triggered this, but this is like this is a GC collect, right? So it's trying to collect garbage, and then it's like, I guess it's like, oh, the assembly's been unloaded, so therefore, like, I'm like dead memory or whatever, it's been freed. And so therefore obviously my memory addresses are messed up. So really weird. And none of their asserts seems to even catch this, which is beautiful. Anyway, so let's go into script engine, and I guess we'll try and switch the domain away from the current domain, because again, what's probably happening is it doesn't even realize that we've unloaded the domain. It's probably just happily unloaded it, and therefore, and then when it's trying to use it, it's like, oh, I can't do anything with it. So let's just try to domain set mono apparently get root domain, and force is false apparently. And let's see like what happens. So we'll put a breakpoint in here just so we can go line by line and see like kind of what causes it. So domain unload seems to have worked. Domain free doesn't work though. So domain free, and we did say force true, but this is actually, looks like this is a crash, yeah, on the main thread. So domain unload is actually not doing anything, which is good. So we've probably gotten past that error. And now it's trying to free the app domain. It's unloaded at first. I don't know what unload does because it's not documented. That's the other thing. I could read the source code, but that's a little bit too try hard. I just want to jam it until it works, basically. Oh, well, okay. So domain free, interestingly, calls debug domain unload, which I don't know what the difference is. Why is there a debug domain unload? Is that like something else? Mono debug. Okay, so that's like to do with the debugger, I guess. Sure. And coincidentally, that's the function that has the crash. And the reason it has a crash is because, yeah, the domain is not correct. Like, the domain has been freed. This domain pointer is no longer valid. So because that domain pointer is no longer valid, we know that this domain actually this domain clearly doesn't exist anymore. So I think what we have to do, and it's very good that we have the mono source code, by the way, because otherwise debugging this would be an absolute pile of garbage. It's already a pile of garbage, but it's not an absolute pile of garbage just yet. It's garbage, but it's like, it's lukewarm garbage. You know, it's not hot garbage just yet, but it's getting there. Temperature's rising. So yeah, and like the way that we can kind of see this as well is we know that like we're over here, right? Like we're inside mono debug, whatever. This is where it's crashing. But if we go up the call stack a little bit, we can see that it's obviously mono domain free. That's the function we've called that's bad. And if we look at what happens in here, nothing like what, because we're in this function, right? But up until then, nothing really happens with the domain, right? We do a little comparison with the domain here, but then we return, just in case that is actually the root domain and force, I guess, is not set to true, then we don't do anything else. But domain, nothing's happened to domain. So what that means is that this domain that we actually pass in here, app domain, clearly has been deleted. Because if we look at this, like the pointer itself looks valid, right? If I just do a little, can I do a little zoom in? Let me see if I can, hopefully this will be helpful to someone. But if I do a little, yeah, here we go. So if I do a little zoom in, right? If we take a look at this, this obviously looks like a valid address. And that's because it is. That's because we passed in a pointer. And when we, you know, freed the memory at the pointer, it obviously didn't do anything to the pointer itself. So the pointer still points to whatever, like the pointer still contains the memory address of whatever was there, right? Or rather, how should I explain this? I mean, it still contains the address, right? Like if you have a friend and you have your friend's address in your phone and they move somewhere or the house gets demolished or destroyed, hopefully in a good way, then it's not like your phone's gonna automatically update where they live. Like you have to go in there and be like, you have to set their address to null. Imagine that. Imagine having a friend, you have their address and then they just move somewhere or whatever and you set their address to null. And then you like, and then you move like, you know, you have to update their address, right? So if you've relocated this, you have to update it. So basically, like the pointer itself doesn't change. Now, the memory at that pointer has been all set to D. So kind of like Cobra is saying here in chat, I thought free memory should be set to CD or DDDD. Oh, CD, yeah, like I think DDDD, like for debug, it kind of depends on what the compiler settings are set to and which compiler you use and all of that stuff. And we are in a debug build, which is why it's doing anything at all. But the point is, the memory at that address is being deleted, right? And we know that for a couple of reasons. I mean, D might just be padding, I'm not 100% sure. And it also depends, don't forget, on how Mono's freeing it. But the reason why we can tell it's, I mean, it's all D's, which is clearly wrong. That's all the pointer types probably. But then obviously like this kind of, these variables are just random values, right? Like they're clearly just random memory basically. So basically what that's telling us is that this stuff is not valid anymore. The pointer itself is valid, but the memory at that address is not valid. And the reason why that's happened in this case is because I'm sure domain unload, the function we just called, has done something. So it kind of seems like we should do this the other way around. But another thing that's kind of interesting is that like domain free actually unloads the domain, but it does like a debug domain unload, which is a bit different. Like if we scroll down a little bit, maybe it also calls domain unload. I mean, it doesn't really seem like it does, or at least not directly. But, you know, I mean, it does say that the domain's been unloaded even though we're in domain free. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, so weird. We basically have to almost reverse engineer this stuff. But let's just not do domain unload. Let's just try do domain free, and that's it. We'll just leave it at that. We'll see if that does anything. Yeah, so Cobra is saying that DDDD is marks freed heap memory. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I would expect it to be. So let's try reload again. All right, so we get a different crash this time. Beautiful. So create app domain is now not working after we try and do a load app domain. Okay, so this is us trying to create this Hazel script runtime domain again. And that's not working for some reason because some kind of domain is wrong, which is beautiful. And what does that do? So create domain, object new handle, domain. The domain that we pass in still kind of seems weird. Let's kind of go back a little bit. I mean, we're not actually passing in a domain here. We're actually making a new one. But this is the app domain. Oh, right. Okay, app domains, yeah, for both. Sure. But the current domain we've also set to the root domain, which I guess is fine. Then we freed this, and then we're on here now. Okay, but something is not correct. So domain, create new domain, new app, domain create app domain checked. Sure. And then that's gonna go into here, create domain internal. Okay, get app domain class, data. So this is a bit weird, right? Because this data pointer here calls monodomain create. Wait, are we in there? No, we're in object new handle. Okay, so we're in this function at the moment. But this clearly didn't work. Oh, no, it did, sorry. This is just a blank new memory allocation. I thought I misread it. So this is all null at the moment, because I'm guessing this function just allocates memory or something. Yeah, basically that's all it does. Okay, sure. Allocates memory and sets up some stuff. But then over here, inside object new handle, but can we really do this at this point? Because domain, I'm not sure if domain actually, and like, what are we even trying to do here? Yeah, this is interesting. But it's in, I wonder what it's trying to create here. Oh, wait. Mono app domain handle. So it's trying to create that object within, I guess, the runtime. But yeah, I mean, it's like this has been deleted or doesn't exist because this is all D's as well. So where does that even come from? Mono class vtable checked. Right, so that would have created the vtable. Is it like, I wonder why, is it still using that old domain or what's going on exactly? Because, I mean, we're in a domain at the moment, but do we really have to do this domain set? Like, does this really need to be done? I mean, this being true and false is not going to matter because the only thing that does is unloads that one. So the root app domain is the initial domain created by the runtime when it's initialized. I mean, this does kind of make sense. You set the domain to that, you free, and then you create a new domain. But that doesn't seem to work. Force is set to true here. But yeah, it's just not, it doesn't want to create a new app domain though. Did we do something else earlier? Or is that just, yeah, because that doesn't work. No, I can't read this stupid data because of the debugger. But it's very weird that this has been like, this has just been trashed. Because it should have just created a new, like, vtable. I mean, this domain does look a bit suspicious. It looks like it just hasn't been initialized properly. But maybe it's fine, I don't know. Oh, but it's unable to read memory as well. That's not good news. Oh, no, but that's because it's a null pointer. Never mind. I mean, yeah, it's definitely a valid allocation, but it's just not there. So Peter's saying you don't need domain free, only domain unload. But is that really a hint? Because I don't understand why this wouldn't be working. That sounds like a hack. No, the unloading, why did we stop unloading it? Oh, well, because we suspect that we can't unload first and then free. Because free, like, uses it or something. But, also, yeah, unloading. And this probably does some form of unloading. Okay, well, we can just not call free, like Peter said, just to see what happens. But I don't know. Freeing is supposed to release the resources associated with it. Okay, well, that doesn't crash. But according to the documentation, like free. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess it's possible that it's like a private function. Because it does say that this releases the resources, and it's a low-level function that is invoked by the app domain infrastructure when necessary. So, I don't know. But it does also, yeah, like, I don't know. It's a bit weird. But yeah, that may have worked, because reloading obviously reloads. Right, and we can do that as many times as we want. So I think we may have worked. Oh, not quite. Okay. Yeah, we probably have to when we reload, we probably have to re-retrieve all of these things or something. So what happened here? Script engine on create entity. Okay. Oh, but this is... Oh, okay. We asserted because... Oh, okay. Component. Oh. No, but that seems to have worked. Do we have to redo this? Ah, yeah, that's possible. Okay. It's possible that we have to redo the components. Because the components, I think, we retrieve from the core assembly image, as you can see over here. Okay. So register components needs to be redone, and then, but this is, it's just a map, but it's, we should clear it first though. So we'll clear that and we'll remake it. So let's go back to here and register functions. I don't think we have to do, because all that does is that just adds an internal call to Mono's runtime. So that definitely doesn't need to be done again. But so let's actually do init mono register functions, and then this stuff is all required per assembly. So if we go to reload, we can just do this guy and we should be good. All right, so reload is fine and play works. Okay, good. So let's do this now. We're gonna keep this guy running, and then I'm gonna basically make a change. So this works, everything's fine. What should we do? I don't know. So distance from player, is that a real thing? Oh, I'm in the camera class. Oh, it doesn't really matter though. I could be anywhere. So, and then this is the player. Okay, so this does use camera distance from player, actually. Let's just make the camera, maybe. But no, because that's... Yeah, what is this? Oh no, we do use distance from player. Okay, let's just add a little distance from player plus equals time step. That's it. Control-Shift-B, script reload, play. And now you can see the camera zooms out from the player. All right, and that all kind of happens without obviously having to restart Hazel or do anything silly like that. So it's obviously zooming away. That's just what happens. And then I can make it go the other way. So zoom in, reload, and then play. And you can see now it's zooming in. Okay. So very quick iteration time, or very quick crash time. Wonder why that happened. Oh, okay. That was unrelated to the scripting engine. So I guess I hovered over an entity that doesn't have a tag component. That probably doesn't exist or something. Yeah, because I guess it asserted with this. Actually, no, it just crashed because it's not a valid entity. Okay, well, that's just that's a weird bug. We'll ignore that one. Okay, that worked. I don't know, that was a bit weird. I'll try and keep my mouse here, see if we can recreate it. No, I don't know how we did that. Strange. But yeah, that's it. that's basically assembly reloading in a nutshell. And Vaguelops is saying you can use that same method I wrote earlier in the top of shutdown mono in order to be able to use the commented out methods properly. Okay, cool. Let's try that. Yeah, so at the moment our mono shutdown is like non-existent. So like, what do? We do like nothing, I think. Can't even find the shutdown function. Yeah, here it is. So we do shutdown mono, and then we kind of have commented this out. But if I think what Vaguelops is saying, is that if we set the domain to the root domain first, then we should be able to unload and then do the git cleanup. So let's try this. And I'm assuming this will... Yeah, that seems to work. Excellent. Thanks, Vaguelobster. Cherno should make a platform game with his test scene log. It's too iconic, yeah. I think we do want to make a little platformer game using Hazel 2D. Because we eventually need to like ship a game, I guess, with this engine. And that way I can finally move on with my life and say this series is over. And so when we do that, we will, I guess we're like one of our inspiration kind of for this platformer game is Hollow Knight. So we'll make something kind of like that. But yeah, I don't know about this scene. Is there a way to reload assembly automatically? Yes. So you can watch the file. You can write like a file watcher, and when the file changes on disk, which is what will happen when we recompile it, it will change on disk. You can trigger a reload, and that's what we might do that next time. I think that'll be a fun exercise. So yeah, we'll probably do that soon. Just because, yeah, I mean, it definitely is obviously annoying. It's not the worst thing in the world, especially if you have a shortcut like Control-R, which we don't actually have that. Speaking of which, we should probably make that work before we go. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously nice to just have that automatically reload. Okay, where are my shortcuts at? Okay, so is this all under control? No, we have to do this. Okay, so R. I mean, we do have R, but that's for this. So let's do if control, else we'll do this. So if control, we'll do script engine, reload assembly. Nice and easy. All right, so let's just double check that works. And then, yeah, that's it. So we've got the camera zooming in at the moment. We'll keep Hazel running. We'll go to sandbox. We'll make it zoom out, I guess. Build, Control R, play, and you can see it zooms out. All right, nice and quick iteration. And yeah, I mean, obviously we could do anything. Like, it doesn't have to be just that. And you can do stuff in on-create. So, like, yeah, I mean, I don't think I need to demonstrate this more than I already have. But you guys kind of get the drift. It basically just means that we just don't have to restart Hazel so that we reload that C# DLL. We can kind of do it while it's running, which is good. So in summary, what did we actually do? It's pretty simple. All we really did was we wrote a reload assembly function, and this is the entirety of the code, right? So we had domain free as well, but that didn't really work out. This seems to work. I don't know if we're maybe leaking something, but we probably aren't. So mono domain set, we first change the current domain to be the root domain because we're usually on the app domain, and if we are on the app domain, we can't unload it. So we switch away from it, we then unload it, and then we just reload it again. And load assembly, load app assembly, and load assembly classes, these three guys, that's exactly the same thing that we call inside this init function. Yeah, here they are. And then register components as well, which we call here. Oh, and we also need to retrieve this kind of entity class that we do here as well, okay? Yeah, that's kind of it. I guess I'll put this up here so it's the same as there. And we can probably combine some of this stuff into another function, so we're not duplicating it inside init. But loosely speaking, that's it. So yeah, cool. All right, well anyway, thank you guys for watching this episode. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget the like button. It's a pretty nice button to click. Patreon.com/Cherno is the best way to support this series and Hazel, and you'll get access to Hazel, of course, as well. A little bit of a short and sweet episode here, but it's nice to just sit down and get something working. And actually, the most satisfying part, even though we maybe haven't quite finished it, is we can go over here now and we can mark this as done. But I'm actually going to add another task, and it's going to be reload C# assembly automatically. So file watcher. And I think we probably will do that next time. I mean, there's also debugging, but debugging should be very easy because we're going to cheat a little bit and use the Hazel Visual Studio extension, which Peter has written, which we use in Big Hazel to add debugging support, which is going to make it very easy because I think the hard part is probably writing that extension, not the mono-related code we'll have to add. And the Big Hazel Visual Studio extension will work with Little Hazel as well, which is fun. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.